It's the cold hard truth. Everyone really want to know what's going on with her show. Just get on the air and you will know it's Sandra. The queen of the mile road is here, helping people from everywhere. Get on the phone and you will hear Sandra. Now she will tell you how it goes, but don't you ever step on her toes, 'cause you will hear the cold hard truth from Sandra. They say she's the hero in town, helping people from all around. You get a call, your money is found, it's Sandra. Some will call her late at night just to say that there is a fight, and she will not just leave it alone. She'll get up and call on the phone, and when politics starts on her show, everyone really wants to know the way the things will really go with Sandra. And some will start to criticize, get on the show and tell pure lies, but someday we'll realize it's Sandra. And when they start to argue again, she'll pull the heads to the wind, and soon you will be a friend of Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone wanna hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone wanna hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone got to hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone got to hear from Sandra.
Everybody wake up! Wake up! Everybody wake up! Wake up! Open your eyes! Jump out of bed! Open your eyes, jump out of bed. If you're on the bottom bunk, don't bump your head. Ow. Everybody wake up! Wake up! Everybody wake up! Wake up! Find your shoes. Find your sock. Find your shoes, find your other sock. Don't hit the snooze on your alarm clock. Everybody wake up, wake up, everybody wake up, wake up, everybody wake up, wake up, everybody wake up, wake up. Toothbrush, toothpaste, now wash your face. Roll out, sound off. It's time to get up, you gotta get up. It's time to get up this morning.
All righty. Did that do it for you? You guys are like, what? Not on a Monday morning? When it, oh, why am I hearing? Oh, hold on, hold on. I was trying to figure out why am I getting feedback? Okay. We had the Facebook tab going there, giving us feedback. All right. I was saying, did that do it for you this morning? I feel like we all needed that this morning. It's hard getting up in this weather. Man, I tell you. I understand the winter blues now. You know, when it's like dreary like this outside, oh my gosh, all you want to do is sleep. Who's with me? Yes, honey child, I feel you. Felt like I could have been snoozing a little bit longer this morning. Give me some hot cocoa. But here we are. Beautiful Monday morning. Good morning to everyone. I love the weather. Florida is in the 30s. Somebody said that right now, Florida is colder than Alaska by probably a few degrees. I was like, what? Alaska? That's wild. 29 degrees in Lutz, Florida. Lutz is checking in with us. That's her cousins there. They're like 29 degrees. Wowee. It'll start to warm up by the weekend. Well, later on today, it'll get up to 53. The high is going to be 55. The low is 28. Wow. What's the feel like temperature? Wind gusts up to 14 miles per hour. Now, you know that means that the feel like temperature is like, woo, cold. What a mess. It's cold, but I'm loving it. Last night I had to run back inside. I was going to walk Zeus. And I went outside and then I was like, oh my gosh, it's colder than I thought. So I ran back in and got my hoodie, my little fleece hoodie, and I put that on. And even then I was like, hurry up, walk, do your business so we can go back inside. Cold. Yep. But you gotta love it. It's nice. You get a reprieve. You can turn that air conditioner off. Although I'm going to be honest with you, inside, if you don't have the AC on, it still feels a little bit, it's weird, but you still kind of feel like you need a little air circulation. So open up the windows. That's the thing to do. Crank open those windows. I know most of us, we don't even have windows anymore that can open. You know what I'm saying? All these security measures. It's like, oh no, I don't have a window that can open, Auntie. Not anymore. So, open your windows, open those sliding doors, give yourself a little bit of breathing room. And of course, for us, this translates into a nor'wester, which essentially means that no ships are coming in anytime soon. Have you guys seen the weather out there? We got some footage from yesterday and over the weekend, and boy, oh boy, I tell you what, that ocean is kicking up a storm, honey child. I'm just like, wow. Well, what are you saying? Yes, indeed. Oh, I'm so sorry. Did you guys hear that just now? When I moved my head a particular way. I think it's these new headsets that I've been using. I notice that sometimes I get that little feedback noise. All right, so today we're gonna go over a few things happening in Cayman and around the world. Accidents are ready for the morning. All I can tell you is please slow down. You know, it's a zoo out there, and you don't have to be part of the circus. Slow down. Take your time. You guys keep complaining about the traffic. I know. But you're not going to get there any quicker if you get in an accident. So take your time. Take it easy. And you'll get there then, right? There was one last night by the Bodden Town Rubus, I believe. We didn't even post that one because it's kind of late. And I thought, I'm already in bed. I was not about to get up. Anyway, had a good weekend. Relatively quiet. I did some studying because I have an exam today. I still get anxiety from exams. Am I the only one at my age? Yeah. You ever knew someone who had such bad exam anxiety? I knew someone in law school. No, not law school, but when I did the PPC, she was doing it with me. Mature woman, had big kids and everything, had a very successful career in banking. I won't say any more because I don't want to identify her. But she used to get, I know during one of her exams, she actually started crying. She got really bad anxiety. And I think it was largely because she's a perfectionist. And she really thought, Zeus, excuse me. Yeah, so she really was upset that if she didn't think she studied enough or, she wasn't going to get a perfect score, that it just wasn't good enough. And so she actually had a little bit of I think it was like a panic attack, to be honest. A little bit cooler. So I've never had any kind of anxiety like that bad, but I do sympathize with people who do. But I just felt a little tinge of oh my God, I haven't had an exam. I actually haven't sat an exam in so long that, yeah. And then I always tell myself, what's the worst that can happen? You fail, and then what? Maybe you redo it. Listen, don't stress yourself out about these things because life really does go on. Ooh, still a little bit hot. So, but I did feel a little bit, I wouldn't say super anxious, but I remember before I clicked the button to go into the exam room, I was like, okay, just breathe. Breathe, honey child. This exam is going to be fun. And I haven't taken an exam in so long. I was just like, oh my God, what have I got myself into? Why am I doing this? You know how then you start to question your own sanity? And then you're like, why? Why did I decide to sign up for this course at my age? Then I psyched myself up. I'm like, nope, you can do this. You got this. This is easy peasy. This cannot be any worse than law school or any of your other degrees, seriously. And so, yeah, I just buckled down and did it. Now, the good news is technically the exam is today. But because it's out of the UK, the timing kind of works in my favor. So the room opened up UK time last night for them was obviously quite a few hours ahead for us. So I was able to get my exam done last night instead of stressing about it today when I'm going to be quite busy with meetings and all this other stuff. So that was kind of good. That was the positive. So I spent some time over the weekend kind of reading through my material. I got this, the part that had me the most stressed out, because it's a journalism course that I'm doing. But the part that had me stressed out was the law part. Can you believe it? After having done a law degree, that was the part that was stressing me out the most. Because I know how law can be, yeah. But it wasn't that bad. I think I did all right. I'll let you guys know when exam results come back. And of course, they get standards. So, you have to get a certain mark and stuff like that to be considered successful. But the media law part is challenging from the perspective that it's different, although we're a Commonwealth jurisdiction. It's still a little bit different because this is based straight off of UK law. So they have their own contempt of court legislation, and then it's trying to, remember case law, which, I mean, it's obviously online, so it's not like you can't crack open your book, but you don't really have time. Like, you have to kind of know the general bits and pieces of it to answer the questions. You don't have time to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to look up every single answer, because then you're reading chapters at a time. And they ask you very minute things. For example, one of the questions is about reporting on minors and whether or not, after a case is over, if that minor could still give you consent. And I think they were like 15 or 16 in the exam question. And so age matters because there's I don't know why this thing keeps jumping me out of the studio. All right, there was a privacy question. There was one defamation question, which is interesting because, again, the law in Cayman around defamation is completely different. Well, sort of. When I say completely, there's common law, but the UK actually has legislated their defamation quite a bit. They've codified it, as we say in law, and Cayman hasn't updated theirs in forever. So in Cayman, defamation can still be both a civil and a criminal offense, which is interesting because we're, I think, one of the only places in the world where defamation is still criminal. Just goes to show you that we do have legislation here that's like really outdated. Even though we're a Commonwealth jurisdiction, we do follow closely what the UK does. We don't do everything they do. And so from that perspective, it's interesting. So I just had to go by what's in the textbooks. Like, I can't confuse what happens in Cayman, because then obviously I'd get the answer wrong. Anyway, I feel good about it. I think I did pretty good. Fingers crossed, because the examiner, like, they do grade really, really hard. Like, I've had ones before. I was like, oh yeah, I did great on this. And I get my assignment back and it's like, you didn't do this and you didn't expand on this. And so you get 2 hours per section. So the first section was journalism, like the writing of stories and stuff, like what to pull out of. They'll give you like a fact pattern. And then how do you research the story? How do you sort of ask the right questions? That part was easy for me, believe it or not, because that's like the practical stuff that I kind of do every day anyway. Although I don't write for the site as much as y'all think, but that part was easy. I finished that part with like a lot of time to spare. The second one, I had about 10 minutes left, 10 minutes to spare. I was like, yes, sir. Anyway, that's done. I'll let you guys know once exam results are back, how we did. And then we're on to the next section, which I can't remember what the next section is. Is it sub-editing? Something, I don't know. Yeah. It's quite a bit of work. Like, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, why am I doing this again? You got weekly reading assignments, you got writing, you've got tutorials that have to be submitting, you got class meetings, mandatory attendance. Oh my God. It's a lot. Anyway, that was the exciting part of my weekend. And then we're going to talk about some of the things that happened in the world around us. How about those Epstein files? Whoa, that's causing a lot of controversy all over the place. So the DOJ, is that who was releasing them? Release another batch, a large amount. I think that they kind of do this on purpose Because, you know, they were supposed to be releasing stuff. They've missed all their deadlines. They kind of low key don't want to release stuff. They're deducting a lot of information. So they look suspicious as heck. And then they hope that nobody's going to read through 1 million pages. Funny thing is, I think that people can do it now because they actually have tools, probably AI tools, that allow them to dig deep. And so, for example, we know that Trump's name was mentioned in the documentation. Let me just give you guys an idea. Like over 3,000 and something times. And it's funny because over 3,200 times, people will say, well, you know, there's a picture of Bill Clinton in there. But what you don't have, this is where you got to pick a little bit of common sense and put it together. What you don't have is Bill Clinton's name being mentioned 3,200 times. So listen, I got a theory, and there are theories out there about Epstein, including the fact that he was working for some agency, like one of the agencies, whether it's a CIA or working for another country as one of their operatives. And I kind of low-key believe this. There's been a lot of really, really interesting reasons why it actually makes total sense. So even his quote unquote rise to power as a financier is very, very suspicious. Like how he got there is one of those things that no one seems to be able to really fully explain. Like he certainly didn't go through any real route of becoming one that you could look at and say, oh, he did this. And, you know, it's like very, very kind of bizarre how he comes on the scene. And I think the understanding is for a lot of people, and then he was also interested in things that, quite frankly, a financier normally wouldn't be interested in at the level that he was trying to get details about certain like research papers, scientific things, like trying to pry into a guy at Harvard, like things that he was doing that leads like national security concerns, weaponry, like there's just things that don't quite add up with this man. So what they say is apparently, despite, I mean, he was obviously a very disturbed individual. And he also was trying to get information on everybody. So that was part of his profile, right? Is the more people he had stuff on, the more people they could potentially, push comes to shove, get them to do certain things later on for whatever agency he was working for. So it kind of is an interesting theory. And I'm not normally a conspiracy theorist. Like I back away from, oh, that's a conspiracy. You know, I'm like, you got to show me some evidence. But I do think that a lot of this seems just to make a lot of sense now when you put it in context. And I actually saw an interview with him. I'm going to share that because I think he is an enigma in so many ways. But I thought about it. I'd actually never seen an interview with him. I didn't know that he had given one, in fact. But you see how cagey he is, even with answering questions. Like this guy is just like, something was up. Something was up. Trust me. So it is interesting. And I think that he had access to a lot of people. One thing I'm learning is that these people, these billionaires, they run in very, very similar circles. So it's not entirely unheard of that their paths would cross. But I mean, I'm gonna show you guys something. There's this guy, I think his name is it Tebow? Hold on. I want you guys to watch something that I saw last night that I thought was interesting. he's actually talking about the profile of people who are into pedophilia and stuff, right? And I hadn't really thought about this too closely, but I mean, again, it makes sense that who you guys think it is, it actually isn't. Well, it depends on how knowledgeable you are. It wasn't really that surprising to me. So the average person who is into child porn, who, you know, when they go on these websites and you've got the detectives pretending to be the kid and they finally arrest these guys, tends to be Caucasian, male, middle age, kind of like average, what you think run of the mill person. And where that's interesting is because in your mind, so many of you want to think of them as particular monsters of a certain kind, you know, like, oh, they must be Tim Tebow. That's his name. Is he a football player or something? But yeah, you guys want to think that, oh, they must be the gay people. They have to be Black. They have to be, you know, it's like you want to criminalize certain people. And whilst I say very, very cautiously, of course, anybody can be a perpetrator and anybody can be a victim, there is a type that exists. And that type is, you know, yeah. Your dad sitting in church every single Saturday, that dude, or Sunday, my apologies. That dude claims that they're, you know, grew up well, man of the faith, whatever. Now, I don't know much about Tim Tebow, but I suspect that there's a story there. And I saw one of the comments that said something about his dad. So I suspect that there's a story there about Tim. And he was probably a victim. The way that he speaks about this, he sounds like he speaks a little bit from experience. And so someone said that if you knew his story with his dad, so I don't know if that meant his dad was a victim or his dad was a perpetrator. Like, I didn't really look too closely at it. But maybe I think his dad might have been, he was a Baptist missionary who served in the Philippines. Okay. I'll look it up because I don't want to misspeak about him and his family. So I'll definitely look it up. It looks like they have a really close relationship. So I'm hoping his dad is the hero here and not the villain. But yes, it says Tim Tebow and why his dad is his hero. Oh, good. You just never know. I mean, but you know, yeah, if he was in the Philippines, he would have heard a lot. He would have seen a lot and heard a lot, honey chill. But here's the interesting, I want you to look at this because, you know, these people had so much influence and power because of who they were, the money that they had. And so as people go through all of this documentation, there's just so much that is coming out. For example, the royal family. Not that I necessarily had a lot of respect for them anyway, you know, because they live a very sheltered and different life and they've always been protected from time, you know. They have been gods, literally. They have seen themselves as God and we're just a little peasants that get whatever, little scraps of looking at their lives. You know, they live exorbitant lives. Listen, I don't even want to get into it because low key, you know, I don't have anything with them against them personally, but I think that the desire to want to worship people like them is very, very problematic. And of course, being an overseas territory, we ourselves suffer from this complex where we think that everything that's like English and proper and whatever is better. You know, Caribbean people as a whole, I think, have this complex, but Caymanians particularly, I know from experience, really, really have that complex. Anything from a foreign, and especially foreign being the UK, is put on a pedestal and is somehow better than we are. And so, am I surprised that so many of them are perverts? Am I surprised that former Prince Andrew was a pedophile? It looks like really? No, that doesn't surprise me. He just had Mama Dearest protecting him until she couldn't protect him anymore. Apparently, even his daughter now. Did you guys see this headline where his daughter has cut ties with him? Which one is she? Can't remember her name. Beatrice, Eunice, something. Whatever their names are. She's cut all ties with him now. She doesn't want anything to do with her dad anymore. I mean, who would? When you think about this, right? Not for nothing. But when you have people like Andrew and, Trump, I can't imagine how their family members must be feeling. Like, if somebody can do that to somebody else's kid, you think your kids in the family would be safe from them? I'm not so sure. I wouldn't trust him. Huh? Who? Not me. And I mean, let's be fair. Trump has always irked me because he has always demonstrated a propensity to say very sexually disgusting things. Robert says no sound. Anybody else getting no sound? I think we're good, Robert. Maybe check your connection, honey child. But yeah, I mean, think about the things that he's even said about his own kids. When he talks about their assets and stuff and what he likes about them and how they're similar to their mothers. I mean, nobody does that. That's normal. Right? So do I think that Trump was having relations with these underage girls? Absolutely, 1,000%. I would bet the farm and then some on it. That wouldn't surprise me. That seems like that's right up his league. And I know a lot of you feel comfortable ignoring that, which I find very disturbing that you would for anybody. So yes, there's a lot of people, and I don't think that every single person who took a photo with him or who attended one of his parties would have been into that, because I think you had to be in the inner circle in order to have access to these underage girls and the pedophile side of things. Do I think that someone who's mentioned 3,200 times and who, there's emails about like that thing with Trump and keeping it secret and this and that, and we have stuff over him. Yeah, that is all signs point to someone who was in the inner circle. And let me be clear with you. You do not hang out with perverts like that if you're not like them. Let that sink in. That old adage, birds of a feather flock together. I can assure you that nobody in their right mind would know what, what's his name? Jeffrey Epstein was into. And you want to hang out with him all the time. Private parties on his private plane. So it's possible that the more casual parties, people didn't really know what kind of devil he was, right? So like the guy there who now is being accused, Bill Gates, right? Okay, so I think there was different levels. This is how I envision this from the evidence I'm seeing coming out. I think there was different levels of access. So there was kind of like the white party. It's kind of like the Diddy thing, right? You had the white party. Hundreds of people invited to the white party, but only an exclusive number get to come to the after party. And then an even more exclusive number get to come to the freak-offs, right? So you don't get an invite to the freak-offs unless he already knows that you're up for it. Bill Gates, he was invited to the first two tiers. The party, the regular party, taking pictures, rubbing shoulders, whatever. And the after party where, yep, he probably did have relations with Russian, prostitutes and call girls and whatever. And that's how he got an STD that he likely passed on to his wife. I believe all that. Because everybody knows that his wife left him after 20-something years, 27 years of marriage, because he was he was cheating on her. And these people have a different level of cheating, I guess. They can't just pick one side chick. They're bringing in call girls from Russia. And so then there's another layer who was in his inner circle. And those people in his inner circle are the Trumps of the world. Trump, Andrew, yeah, that's them. So they know what he was up to, the disgusting sex trafficking of underage girls. And you can't sit back and know that someone is like that and still be their friend, still hang out with them, engage with them. There was even something about when he first saw, what's his wife's name? Melania, right? He actually was in one of the emails. He actually made a comment to Epstein that that part of her behind is so fine and this and that. I guess that's his way of making a pass. Like, I don't know. He doesn't seem to have much swag, but when you're rolling in those circles, you don't, because you just rape underage girls. So it doesn't really matter. It's a lot to take in. It really is. Sarah Ferguson. This morning, the headlines: former Duchess of York husband is also named in the files. Of course he is. Pictures of him over someone who looks like they're passed out. And she told Epstein in an email, "Marry me," and declares her love in emails. You see, granted, he was loaning her a lot of money. He was paying off her debt. We know all this stuff already. It's just so crazy. But these people were, oh my gosh. She needed 20,000 pounds. And she just casually be like, "Oh, I need 20,000 pounds. Will you just send it to me?" Huh? She actually asked Epstein to marry her, knowing what he was is so disgusting. Apparently, one time she got upset with him because she said he had disappeared. "I did not even know you were having a baby." He has a baby? Ew. What she said, "It was so crystal clear to me that you were only friends with me to get to Andrew." Oh, jealous. But she claimed, she thought that he had claimed to have a child. So she claims, oh God, I know that poor child would be tormented if that was the case. This is one of the messages. She says, "Don't know if you're still on this BBM, but have heard from the Duke that you had a baby boy," she wrote, signing off the message with Sarah XX. Disgusting. It is mind-boggling. So, 3 million files released, and there's still stuff that they're hiding, apparently. There's still documents that are far worse than this. And stuff is redacted so much that it's hard to even know. But I think it's fair. If you had to, although Trump is going on claiming that this has exonerated him, he must be crazy. Because there's no way. There's a guy here, Lord Peter Mandelson, in his underwear, in one of the pictures here. So I think he has since stepped down. You see, this is the other thing. Is apparently this was at Jeffrey Epstein's Paris flat. Apparently this guy, like I said, he was actively collecting stuff on people. So when they went into his property, he had a camera in every single room, bathrooms everywhere. And he was constantly taking footage and pictures of people. Now here's an interesting interview that he did. And again, I didn't even know that this interview, I'd never seen an interview of Epstein now that I'm thinking about it. But look at what happens when an interviewer asks him if he's the devil. This is low key, wow, foretelling.
Dirty money?
If you look,
I just asked a question. Is your money dirty money? No, it's not. So, in fact,
Why is it not dirty money?
because I earned it. A heart.
But you earned it.
I earned it legally.
We went back to this before. You earned
Yes.
it. You earned it advising the worst people in the world, right? That do enormous bad things, and just to make more money.
So, instead of asking me the question, should you take the money? Because I think it's a legitimate question.
Do you think it's a legitimate question?
Yes, no
Why?
question. Because I think about, ethics is always a complicated subject, but I can tell you that with the money I gave to help try to eradicate polio.
Let me just stop him right there when he says that ethics is such a complicated subject. For most people, it really isn't that complicated. But I guess for him, it was complicated. So they think that they can throw money at charitable organizations. Like, listen, no doubt Bill Gates has done a lot for charities and feeding the hunger and whatever. But does that exonerate you from, giving your wife an STD and then trying to give her low-key antibiotics that she doesn't even know she's taken? Like, who does that? Who even asked that question? These people are not ethical at all.
In Pakistan and India, instead of asking me whether that money should be given to these children for vaccines, I think you might want to ask their mothers who received the vaccine, who know their child now won't get polio, and ask them if Epstein should have helped these people.
If we
with their
walked in,
money.
if we walked in, you're
is
a
that a fair question?
mathematician. You're a mathematician. If we walked into that clinic where they're giving that money out to these people that are in the most dire straits of poverty and sickness, and told them that the money was coming from class 3 sexual predator?
Tier 1.
Tier 1's the highest and worst?
No,
I'm the lowest.
I'm the lowest.
You're the lowest.
Right.
Tier 1, you're the lowest. But a criminal.
Yes.
That the money came from them. What percentage of people do you estimate? I understand you don't like probabilities. Do you estimate?
And by the way, he was only a tier 1 because the feds, thanks to his connections, and no doubt it came from the highest level of the country, someone gave him a Cinderella sweetheart deal that he should have never gotten from the first time allegations were brought to light about him. So it's just like what? Yeah. This is the guy talking about, oh no, I'm a tier 1, knowing in his mind that he was far worse than any tier they would have seen yet. But here we go. Continue to listen to him. Because when you see his body language and how he acts and what he says and how he answers these questions, it says a lot about who he is, really.
Would say, I don't care, I want the money for my children.
I would say everyone said, I want the money for my children.
Did they know where the money came from?
I think if you told them,
if
I told them the devil,
100%.
the devil
himself
said, I'm going to exchange some dollars for your child's life.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
No, but I do have a good mirror.
It's a serious question.
Sorry.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
I don't know. Why would you say that?
Because you have all the attributes. You're incredibly smart. You remember the devil is
Was
somebody
the devil
knows
smart?
The devil's brilliant. You read Milton's Paradise Lost.
No, the devil scares me.
Satan is at the number 1 or 2 archangel, and the reason he goes to hell and leads the rebellion is because he can't be the top guy. And his thing is, I'd rather reign in hell than serve in heaven.
I saw that in a movie once called American Dharma. I don't remember who said it. Okay, we have to go.
Okay, good. Okay.
What? Wow. So that was released in the latest Epstein files. I guess that's why I've never seen it, because it wasn't public. But wow, it's just unbelievable. Here's the Tim Tebow interview I was telling you guys about.
Number 1, offender type is biological fathers, but by far it is being done by middle-aged.
So just to be clear, because I think it's a little bit muffled what he says there, but he says the number 1.
The number 1 offender type.
Offender type. That's a little bit unclear, but the number 1 offender type is actually biological fathers. Let that sink in for a second. The number one offender type for child sexual abuse is biological fathers. You know how scary that is? Oh my God.
His biological fathers, but by far it is being done by middle-aged Caucasian men. Many, over half of them college graduates. It's time that we call them out. We can't stand by and stand back. Like, we have to stand up. Not only are we not doing our job as men, it's actually the opposite. Instead of being defenders and protectors of our families, we're hurting and abusing.
Thank you, Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow is right. And so why isn't conservative media exploiting this shit? Fuck you, conservative media. And any
Oh my Lord, my apologies. Didn't know that was in there. Ooh, we'll get a phone call about that later. But you see the point that somebody says, is that not AI? No, that was an actual interview that Tim Tebow did. It is really, really, apparently his foundation, the Tim Tebow Foundation, has been working in combating child sexual abuse, exploitation, and human trafficking as a primary focus. And so he has had a lot to say, like, around this. He's tried to educate himself, on trying to stop child exploitation. It is rampant the world over. And it is really, really unfortunate that we have people in leadership positions who are some of the biggest culprits out there. I don't want to get too deep into this today. I just want to say that with more of the files that are coming out, we'll see more in the coming days. It is really, really shocking to see the people that were a part of this, some, like I said, at varying levels, but the ones who were deep in it with him, who were his closest friends and confidants and, you know, wanted to go to every single party and whatever, of all of those people, the one person that is mentioned over 3,200 times, I'm going to say it again, over 3,200 times in the latest round of documents released is none other than Donald Trump. Let that sink in. It is a lot. And he's a leader of what is supposed to be the best country in the world. Not so much so anymore, but y'all know what I mean. Now, here's a little joke for you. This one says, you know who doesn't appear to be listed in the Epstein files? And this is a video of Joe Biden walking away and looking behind. Yeah, he's not there. Wow. All right, folks. Stay tuned. There's so much more around this that's like really, really unbelievable. And, you know, the files, they'll be writing stories for months on all of the stuff that they're discovering. Even, did you guys see Jay-Z and Beyonce mentioned in there? That is pretty wild. Whoa, we can keep an eye on that because I think they're going to dig a little bit deeper in terms of how their names were mentioned. Was it like casually they were showing up to these parties, or were they like a little bit deeper? I'm just saying, no bueno, Jay-Z. You know, people been kind of eyeing him for a minute, especially our little friend 50. 50 be like, my next documentary is going to be on Jay-Z. It's like, damn. Speaking of documentaries, over the weekend, Melania, the documentary was released, and there's been some interesting feedback on it. So, you know, in typical fashion, they were saying how like people weren't even showing up. Like the first film or whatever release in the UK, like one person bought a ticket. But you know, the people that are showing up for her are definitely people who are Trump supporters. So they've been going out watching it. And a lot of them are like, oh, you know, it's so great. We get to see so much insight around her. And it's like, go watch it for yourself and walk away saying if you really know anything more about the woman. She's like the weirdest enigma. And I have a theory about her too. Like, listen, she's just there. She's a lot younger than Trump, obviously. They've been married now, I think, been together for 20 years. She knows he's not going to last much longer. Listen, if Trump gets another 2 years out of life, given his lifestyle and stuff, and all his health issues, that's going to be plenty. She will live gloriously in the penthouse in New York and have a fabulous life after he's gone. And a couple years after he's gone, she'll marry someone much more, you know, up her alley. And she'll be fine. But they're pushing this narrative that apparently, you know, the film is doing so well. Not compared to the 70 million or whatever that they spent. They're not going to make that money back. But it beat box office predictions. Well, that's because the predictions were like really, really low. Not only that, they're claiming that it's like the narrative that they're pushing is strongest documentary debut in over a decade. What kind of documentaries are they talking about? Because even the P. Diddy documentary did way more in that first weekend than this. So you have to look closely at how people use words and the things that they say. So $40 million to make, $35 million to promote. They gave her some lump sum money as well. So of course the Trumps are all about lining their pockets. Remember now, since he's been in office in the last year alone, the net worth of him and his family has tripled. This is a man who says he's not taking any salary, and yet his net worth has tripled. And every opportunity he gets, he is suing his own government. And then those are the same people that answer to him that have to decide if they're going to pay him out. It's a little crazy when you start to break it down. But the latest lawsuit is what, $10 billion to the IRS and the Treasury. And so even if they settle with him, that's people that he has hired that now have to decide if his $10 billion lawsuit has any merit or if they're going to just settle with him to make it go away and to line his pockets again. The things that are happening are just so, I feel like I live in some kind of alternative, like weird universe. It's just bizarre. Like it's just nowhere in the world does this make any sense. So the other interesting thing that happened over the weekend, over the last couple of days, is several journalists have been arrested in relation to some protests at a church, right? Of course, you know, MAGA supporters say people like Don Lemon barged into the church and, you know, they should be arrested, they should be charged. It is very, very interesting because I tell you what, I have been involved in protests, right? You go there, yes, as a member of the media, but sometimes you do support the position. I'm thinking about, for example, with Mike Adam and his family, with that crazy neighbor, right? We were there covering it, live streaming it. But of course, I was also in support of like the right position in that protest. And I was saying, you know, you need to get the heck out of here if you think after 40 years of having a right of way that you can come in here and try to change things up. Like, who the hell do you think you are? You know? And so here's the funny thing. In relation to that protest, I was actually arrested and charged with disorderly conduct. And I looked at it and thought, okay, I pled guilty. I'm like, I probably was being a little bit disorderly. It's not like it's okay. I mean, I did, you know, use some profanity and kind of tell him to get the hell out of here if that's how he was going to go on. So, yeah. But to criminalize it using the KKK legislation, it's wild. I mean, what they've actually charged him with, and I forget what the other lady's name is as well. It is pretty crazy. So we wait and we watch and we see. Apparently, they were trying to get an indictment from a judge, and twice the judge turned it down and said absolutely not. And so then they took it to a grand jury. Now, the way that the system works in the US, it's actually quite easy to get it from grand juries in the sense that it's an ex parte application. So it's not like you're getting to even put forward any preliminary arguments or anything like that. So, he says obviously that he's going to fight this. I was watching a very interesting interview with his attorney last night on YouTube, and his attorney was saying how, he said, in the 60s when they had the protests around the civil rights movement, that these tactics, if these tactics were the same tactics that they use today, you would have never had any record of what transpired during the civil rights movement. So what they're trying to do, and I think I can see the argument for sure. What they are trying to do is they are trying to ensure that people are not recording. So now if you go to a protest and you're recording federal agents and what they're doing, the behavior that they're engaging in, you are being targeted as a domestic terrorist just for recording. And meanwhile, they're telling agents that they can break the law. They don't need search warrants. They don't need all this stuff, which is completely false. But people can't keep up with all the lawsuits that are going to be coming against ICE and against the government. And in the meantime, a significant amount of damage is actually being done. So speaking of ICE, let's talk about the situation with Caymanian Alan Mikey Dabrio, because ICE was instructed by a judge to let Mikey go free. We were celebrating this last week. And within days of that happening, apparently the ICE agents or admin or whatever, whoever they are, have actually said that they're not going to let him go. After all, they're going to ignore the judge because the judge said just let him out on bond. He's not going anywhere. And then you guys can work out the details in court and whatever. They've said no. So they have actually stopped Mikey from being free. And it is just, unbelievable, really. A judge makes an order and a judge says, you do this. And ICE is saying, no, we're not going to do it. So Mikey will remain in ICE custody. We have an interview with Mikey's husband here, and it's just really, really shocking that you don't even, there is a judicial process that you can go through to appeal things and hearings and whatever. And basically they're ignoring all of those things, all of your rights through the court system. And they're like the law unto themselves.
Yes,
His
we
husband.
received the heartbreaking news then on Wednesday night that ICE has decided to stay Allen's release while they decide whether or not to appeal the judge's grant of bond. So unfortunately, this is a delay, and this is a pivot that now we are having to make. But as we said before,
and here's the crazy thing about this, right? I want you to put this in context. Normally what happens is, even in the courts here in Cayman, because I know a lot of you have questions like around bail and who gets bail and whatever. Normally when you have an appeal pending, it depends on obviously the details of the case, but when you have an appeal pending, or if the person's already incarcerated for a serious offense, like they've been found guilty, which isn't what is happening here. But if they were found guilty and they're already, in jail, they would remain in jail until the appeal is heard, right? However, they've not even decided if they're going to appeal. They're thinking about it. For this level of an offense, normally you would just, like the judge said, let him out on bond. And so by them refusing to do that, It just, again, speaks to how they're operating, right? We're going to talk about the Cubans here in a second. I want to address something that someone posted on social media about, oh, they hope that I have the same energy for Cubans. I'm going to talk about that, but just listen to this interview for a second.
We have a strong legal team. We have a really, really strong faith community and friend community, family, chosen family. And the real unfortunate thing is that Alan has to stay detained while they decide whether or not they are going to officially appeal. And they have 10 days to do that. So Matthew is remaining down there close to his husband. And so our love for you, Matthew, down there is and we hope that you can feel it from all over the world, everyone watching this. And we wanted you all to hear from Matthew himself about this pivot and about this delay. So we are still absolutely working towards Alan's freedom. We still believe wholeheartedly and full-chestedly that Alan will be free. And we are absolutely devastated by this pivot and this new delay.
And we've been told by several sources, including our legal team, that this is not a targeted thing. This is just something that ICE is doing across the country to stay people's cases. And like we said before, they can try to pause us, but they cannot stop us. My husband is super strong, and I'm getting emotional, but he is very strong, and he's aware of what's going on. He's grateful that I'm down here so that I can see him on the daily. But he knows that this is not going to break us. We are not going to let this win. And that he has done everything right from the beginning of his stay in the United States to now. He has done everything right. And the judge who granted his bond stated that. And he has a clear pathway to citizenship. So we're going to focus on that. We're going to focus on the positive outcome. And, I just ask that everybody keep us in your thoughts and your prayers. I am spending a lot of money being down here in Mississippi. So if anybody can contribute to the GoFundMe, I would appreciate it. It does have a purpose. Yeah, I'm very grateful for both my family and Alan Michael's family, who is just as outraged and angry about this, but we stand together in solidarity alongside Middle Church and Make the Road New York to get this done. We also have tremendous support from elected officials that we're reaching out to again as well. So we are staying hopeful. We are outraged. We are absolutely infuriated. I am heartbroken, but I am determined not to let this break us. My husband is determined to not let this break us. We will succeed. There is a possibility that they might not appeal and that they will still release him, but we don't know. We don't know what their plan is. So we are pivoting to achieve the best possible outcome that we can within our legal right to.
That's right. We are pivoting, and we are pivoting together.
Right.
Thank you, Matthew, and our prayers will remain. And we are pausing, but we are not stopping.
Right.
Going to
So thank you.
Alan and free all people.
Yes. So thank you, everybody. I will stay tuned. We will keep you updated as we can. And thank you again for all the love and support.
We love you so much. Thank you, everyone.
So really sad situation to go from the high of this, thinking that he was actually going to be getting out because the judge said so, to then them saying, oh, hold on a second. We might appeal. Hold on a second. We might appeal it. So in light of that, we'll just keep him. He has not, someone just said, oh, how Donald Trump is getting rid of all the criminals and stuff like this. And it's just like, okay. But the vast majority of people who he's arresting are not criminals. So it's like, what? It's simply not true. So there's that. People just believe what they want to believe. You know, they're not even fact checking anything anymore. So, yeah. And then people like Nicki Minaj. She's illegal, undocumented. And yet, because she's on his platform, although I think he pulled a little fast one on her, because he gave her a Trump gold card, and then they're like, oh, it's just a fake little memento thing. And she was all on cloud nine over it. Huh. All right. Anyway, he says that he's going to deport all of the illegals, which is between 11 to 13 million undocumented immigrants currently reside in the United States of America. And here's an interesting fact that I think you guys, I thought it was an interesting fact anyway, is that apparently for the first time in American history, the population, first time in 250 years, the population has actually declined in the United States of America. Isn't that interesting? An actual population decline. So this has some interesting implications that I'm sure none of Trump and his supporters or anybody else is thinking about. But, yep, Donald Trump is causing the United States his first ever population decline in its entire 250 years. What does that mean? So, according to Bloomberg, one well-regarded population estimate warns that the 2026 is primed to be the year of the first real population decline ever in U.S. history. And one of the main reasons the census officials say is the Trump administration's incredibly aggressive deportation campaign. So from July 2024 to July of 2025, the U.S. Census data shows the total U.S. population only grew by about 0.5%, or 1.8 million people, a rate that seems certain to slip into the negative. So the cause is a collapse in the migration rate from 2.7 million people in July 2024 down to 1.3 million in 2025. And prior to Trump's return to office, the U.S. population wasn't expected to begin declining until around 2080, meaning that Trump is setting the country up for a much earlier reckoning. And so what does that mean? I guess we'll have to sit back and watch and see. But population declines are normally not something that are celebrated and is looked at as a good thing at all. So, pretty interesting. Watch the space, because a lot of times these things have unintended consequences. What was I telling you guys the other day? That Grenada, after some immigration reform, they were begging for immigrants now to come to their country because they don't have enough workers. You got to be careful, because unintended consequences, not for nothing, is a very, very serious situation. So now you don't have enough workers, and now you're begging foreign workers to come. It's like, huh? I think it was Grenada, one of those countries around there, one of those Caribbean countries. Anyway, let's talk about Cayman for a second. We saw over the weekend, as expected, I think the deputy governor warned us about 2 weeks ago, because of the, again, unintended consequences, because of the situation in Venezuela that Trump has created when he went in there and decided to invade and take out the president. Regardless of what a horrible person he is, there will be consequences that flow from that. And one of the consequences is that Cuba, who relies heavily on Venezuelan oil, has now been cut off from getting Venezuelan oil. So of course the Cuban people will be suffering immensely now as a result of that. And what that really means is that they will, start to migrate elsewhere, as we've seen them do in the past. And so their migration, one of the places that, just because of our close proximity, the direction of the waves and whatever, I'm surprised they made it in this choppy water, but they seem to get to Cayman Brac a lot easier than they do to Grand Cayman. So they end up here. We had 10 that came in to Cayman Brac over the weekend. The government hasn't officially released anything as yet, but as you guys well know, CMR, we got people in the Brac, we got people in Little Cayman. So they actually came into Little Cayman, my apologies. And then they were going to be moving them from Little Cayman to Grand Cayman so they can start the processing of them. So we expect there to be an influx again. We've gotten our numbers down, and we expect there to be an influx of these Cuban migrants again coming on shore, simply because of the economic situation in Cuba. And, without access to oil, they no doubt will have a lot of outages, power outages, and so on. Apparently, the Guardian paper this morning is announcing that the U.S. is in talks with Cuban leadership, according to Trump, after blockade threats. So the U.S. is also threatening them above just the oil situation. They're levying threats against the Cuban government as well. And so they claim now that they're trying to strike a deal to see, I guess he wants to take over Cuba too. So he was quoted as saying, Trump said on Friday, or on Sunday, my apologies, at his Palm Beach residence. Apparently you got to subscribe to his social media, Truth, what's it called? Truth whatever. That's the one that he's on, because that's how he runs the country. All official announcements are made on Truth Social. And so he actually did make a comment though on Sunday where he said that Cuba is a failing nation. Imagine the irony of Trump saying that. But anyway, Cuba is a failing nation. It has been for a long time, but now it doesn't have Venezuela to prop it up. So we're talking to the people from Cuba, the highest people in Cuba, he says. I can see him saying this, the highest people in Cuba, to see what happens. So this is what he told reporters at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, Florida on Sunday. I think we're going to make a deal with Cuba, he says. He didn't make any indication what a deal might entail. But he said on Saturday that it doesn't have to be a humanitarian crisis. I think they probably would come to us and want to make a deal, really. They have a situation that's very bad for Cuba. They have no money. They have no oil. They lived off of Venezuelan money and oil, and none of that's coming now. So on Thursday, the Republican president signed an executive order threatening to impose additional tariffs on countries that sell oil to Cuba. So not only is he cutting off the Venezuelan oil, right, which Venezuela, I think, was their biggest partner in that, but he's also now threatening anybody else who supplies them with oil that he's going to levy additional tariffs on them. So on the weekend and Friday, there were long lines at the petrol station in Havana. People can't get oil for, heat and gas and just electricity even. And so that seems to be their position. They want a regime change in Cuba as well. So they're dictating around the world who leaders of other countries should be. So they're continuing to put the pressure on Cuba. So Reuters also has another interesting headline. It says Washington scolds Cuba after crowds heckle U.S. diplomat. What a hot mess. So their top diplomat in Havana went to some event and a small group of Cubans jeered at him. And so now Washington's upset about that and they're blaming the Cuban government. Let that sink in. Okay. Hot mess. Pope Leo, he's getting into it. So the Vatican News reported that Pope Leo was joining Cuban bishops and calling for dialogue with the U.S. He expressed some concern for the rising tensions between the United States and Cuba. And he's saying, let's not have this escalate. So who else is going to be helping Cuba? Well, Mexico, right? So apparently they're now walking a diplomatic tightrope after the U.S. president threatened to impose tariffs on countries that are sending oil, because they will send oil, and they do send oil to Cuba. So that's one of their trade partners. And now President Trump has said that he will hit Mexico with additional tariffs. So Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum, I think is how she pronounces it. Not a typical name, but anyway. Not a typical Mexican name, I should say. So on Friday, again, he warned that tariffs could trigger a far-reaching humanitarian crisis in Cuba that could affect its hospitals, food supply, and other services. So apparently, Mexico in 2025 accounted for 44% of Cuba's foreign oil supply. So I'm guessing the rest came from pretty much Venezuela and then Mexico. So threatening Mexico with tariffs. And she said her government would ask the U.S. to clarify the scope of Trump's tariffs while also seeking alternative ways to help Cuba, which is already experiencing frequent blackouts from the energy crises that they're currently having because, they can't get access to oil. So potential further tariffs on Mexico. And he uses this tariff thing a lot to try to, control countries and to get them to do what he wants them to do. So here's the thing. So someone made this comment. Let me just go read it because I can't even remember sometimes. So someone said when we posted the story yesterday, or the post rather, about these Cubans, this person says whoever Stringfellow Hawk is, they claim that they're from East End. And I have to chuckle because clearly they haven't really ever listened to this program. So they say it'll be interesting to see if CMR is intellectually honest. Okay. And if her opinions change when it is the USA versus Cayman. I'm not sure I even understand that part, because what does that have to do with Cuba? So I'm not sure what they're talking about. So let me just clarify that. But I assumed that what they meant to say, because this isn't USA versus Cuba, but I think what they meant to say is in relation to the Cubans now coming to Cayman, what is my position going to be as it relates to, here we are now having illegal migrants come to our country. Well, my position has never changed. You see, this is the thing, right? I feel like when you hold a principled position, you can hold that no matter what. Your opinion can change, and certainly your access to facts and information changes, but your core position is the same. So let me just explain this, because whoever Stringfellow Hawk is, claiming that they're from East End, clearly they have never, listened very clearly to what I have said in the past, right? So let's be very, very clear. And I saw Nancy jumped in about humanity is sending Cubans back to Cuba, either be jailed or killed or trying to escape. Well, let me be very, very clear. We have paths that people can come here, political asylum. The vast majority of Cubans, and I do mean 99% who are coming here, have nothing to do with political asylum. It is for economic reasons. I sympathize with those people immensely. Trust me, my heart breaks. But our laws do not permit you to come here quite like that, not off of a boat and just come in for economic reasons. If you can prove that there's a case for political asylum, then the law states that you can apply. Otherwise, the position and the law is that you are returned to your own country. That's what it is, right? I have always supported that as a small island nation, we're not in the position to take on thousands or even hundreds of Cubans because we can see what that costs our government and the burden that we have. Now, here is where MAGA and people like whoever this strong string fellow hawk and I probably differ considerably, is that does not mean that when they come here, and you guys have heard me say this before, in fact, CMR has been the only media house that has given Cubans any sort of real voice in terms of potentially how they're being treated here, right? When we did that expose interview where we went through the Civic Center there in Town, I told you guys, as Caymanians, as just human beings, we have an obligation to never treat people less than that. I get it. Do we want them here? Not really. Right? Okay, that's fine. But once they are here, we don't get to abuse them and mistreat them. Nobody should do that. So this has always been my position. We need to maintain minimum standards, right? We don't need to beat them up. We don't need to abuse them. We don't need to starve them. We don't need to treat them. No, that's not right. And so we have a pathway that allows people, if it's political asylum, you make your case and you go from there. If it's not, unfortunately, you cannot stay in Cayman, right? We can't accommodate you. That doesn't mean that we're going to hate you. That doesn't mean that we're going to be mean to you. I was watching an interview, I can't remember who it was over the weekend, and someone said something that I had to sit back and reflect on, even from our position on immigration, right? Not that all of the people who come here are necessarily, poorer than we are, but a lot of them are. They come from very poor countries. And the interviewer and interviewee were having this dialogue where they were talking about, let's just think about this for a second. President Trump and, the Republican Party and all them, they want you to focus on people who have come to the United States of America who have less than you, right? They want you to believe that those people who are disenfranchised and who have less than you are the real root cause of your problems in life. Someone who has less than you is causing you problems. And I thought about that for a second. And if you have to be fair, when you look at immigration and migration and that sort of thing, it is this part of it is very xenophobic. Part of it is you're almost prejudiced to the point where you really do believe that people who have less opportunities, they're the real threat. And the truth of the matter is, the poor people are not the real threat. The real threat are the people who have money, who have access, because with that money and with that access means that those people don't even want to follow the rules. They're not going to comply. They're going to do whatever they want. And so they're the ones running the world, right? The poor people are not the ones running the world. Somebody poorer than you and in a less position than you, how are they running the world? How are they making a difference? They're not. It's the billionaires, folks. And listen, I ain't got nothing against billionaires if they're good people. But I'm just saying a lot of them are not good people. And so you have to look closely if you're trying to group people together and just blame entire groups of people about, who's causing the world to be where it is. Not for nothing, but the greed of that 1% has a real impact on all of our lives. people who are a couple strings lower than you on the ladder and the totem pole, they're not the ones who are impacting your life as much as you think. So I don't know. It's just really sad. And it is complicated because I think a lot of times that we get caught up in our own feelings about people. You know, we all have prejudices and misconceptions, and it really takes a person educating themselves about people, even, right? To kind of try to shed some of those prejudices that we have. And, you know, because we're human beings, I think we lean towards discriminating against people who are different than us anyway. Like, you have to work consciously against, like, okay, I'm not going to be that person, right? I'm going to judge people and how I find them. I'm not going to try to clump all people together into one basket. And so it's an issue that we deal with here in this country, and we deal with, you know, on the world level as well. And so someone says Stringfellow Hawk was the name of the lead character in the 1980s sitcom series Airwolf, starring Jan Michael Vincent and Ernest Borgnine. I don't know. I never watched Airwolf, so there you go. This person says, morning, Cayman is too small for a flood of Cubans who have proven time and time again that they're ungrateful and entitled. And, you know, I can't honestly disagree with that because, unfortunately, yes, the ones that we're getting here, and I'm going to say this with reservation, because as is usually the case, the minority cause 80% of the problems. So most of the Cubans they're like low key. They have a different kind of lifestyle. You know, they do things a little bit different. So yes, you know, a lot of us look down on them like, oh my God, we would never live in conditions like that. But you think that they're choosing to live in conditions like that? You know, remember the guy that I interviewed at the Civic Center who said that he did, like, you know, journalism and stuff in Cuba? He actually had made it, the last time he checked in with me, he had made it to Mexico, but he couldn't say too much about his precise location, what he was doing, because apparently he was still trying to get into the United States of America. So he was, you know, trying to, I guess, make that very, very dangerous void. Now, here's the interesting thing. Cuban people in the United States of America were largely supportive, especially in Florida, of the President Trump during his second tenure. That it's been a year now that he's been in office, right? And the irony of it is that, in fact, more Cubans now, they thought they were protected, you see, and this goes back to that quote. When they came for the socialists, I was not a socialist, so I did not speak up. You cannot sit back and allow other people around you to be mistreated, to be disenfranchised, and to not think that one day it is going to be your turn. This is a lesson in just general humanity. Any government, any system that is willing to abuse anybody, any minority, that should never give you comfort. You should not feel comfortable. You shouldn't be able to sleep at night thinking that, oh, I'm going to be okay, because you're not. Because those are authoritarian governments that do not care about anybody ultimately, but the selected few. And the selected few are their friends, their cronies, who tend to be, you know, rich like them, white like them. They all think that they're special. Funny enough, most of them migrants, just 1 or 2 generations haven't gone to the US. You know, they're trying to kick out the Mexicans and the this one, that one. It's like, who do you think that they found there? You know, the Mayan Indians were like in North America way before y'all European even knew where it was on the map. Right? So when they come for them, it's only a matter of time before they're coming for you. Right? We sit back and we think we're comfortable. Okay. You know, this was written back at a time when they first came for the Jews. So we think, all right. And we see it time and time again. We can change out any of these words, Jews, communists, trade unionists, it doesn't matter. Because guess what? There are people sitting down, well, the farmers. Oh, yeah, they're not coming for us. Now the farmers are feeling it. African Americans, and well, you know, a few of us can support Trump. He's not going to come for us. And then he came for you. He has fired more African Americans under his tenure in the federal government than anybody ever. Make that sink in. Huh? Show me the people of color. Show me the diversity in his own cabinet. It doesn't exist. He hoodwinked y'all, and some of you bought into it. The LGBT community, some of you support Trump. Oh, I'm going to support Trump. And then he came for you. He came for your people. So it doesn't matter if you sit back, unless you're in that 1% where you can rape and pillage and, take millions of people money from poor people. And just because you have influence and money, you're going to get a pardon. If you're not in that very elite group of people, they're coming for you too. And this is just journalists. They thought that they were safe. They're coming for journalists. Nobody is safe when you have mad people in control of your country. And so there's a lesson here for all of humanity that we have got to be prepared to stand up for what is right. So no, I don't want Cubans and Cayman who come here illegally, but I understand their plight and I sympathize with them. And as someone who has actually lived in another man's country, I can tell you that most Caymanians, y'all have been very, very fortunate, right? Your forefathers had to go elsewhere to get work. And yes, I will agree with you that they got the permits and they did it the right way. There might have been one or two that stowed away in a boat too. Yeah? But I know what it's like to crave an opportunity and to think in your own country if that opportunity isn't there. You want it so badly in someone else's country that you will do almost anything to be able to get it. And that doesn't necessarily make you a bad person. That makes you a desperate person. And so we've been so fortunate in the last couple generations to grow up with food, ample food, so much so that most of us are obese, right? We got more food than we know what to do with. We've got concrete and brick structures so that when we have a storm, we're not that impacted. We make money where we can get on a plane and we can take a trip and we can travel. We don't have to think about the realities of power outages, no gas at the petrol station, at the gas station. You're lucky if you got a car. You're lucky if you have shoes on your feet. I mean, I've been to Cuba a number of times and you see, especially out in the country, the little children on the side of the road asking you for 5-cent American. And they're pointing at their feet. No shoes on their feet. I sympathize for those people. I sympathize for the people of Cuba. Like, yeah, they need regime change. I don't think I don't think it's really worked out too well for them. But I also don't believe that it's anybody else's job to go in there and force that regime change to happen. I think the Cuban people they've done it in the past. They've had civil wars. They've overturned governments. It will be left to them to get to that point where they say, okay, enough is enough. We need some change. We need, if they think democracy is going to work, and let's be very, very clear, democracy might be the best we think we got, but it's also not all that it's cut out to be either. I mean, look at what we call democracy in the United States of America, where it's not even the majority that dictates whether or not a president gets voted in, because their system is all kind of crazy. And how, now he can go and change electoral boundaries and change up maps and whatever to purposely change the outcome of an election. Does that really sound like democracy to y'all? That sounds like madness. Anyway, all I can tell you is the world is complex. I'm certainly not here trying to solve anybody's problems. But what I tell you is Cubans are being deported at an alarming rate that, has never been seen before. They all thought that they had preferential treatment in the United States of America until now. And they had just 2 weeks ago, the federal government claiming that on January 3rd, Geraldo Campos, a detainee, a Cuban detainee, died while attempting suicide. However, eyewitnesses say that that's not true. The guards actually pinned him down and choked him to death. And anyone who saw the incident was quickly being deported outside of the United States so that when the investigation takes place, they would not be available to be interviewed. Does that sound like a democracy? Does that sound like that's a better country than Cuba, where people will disappear by the hands of the government? People are being killed by the hands of ICE. Does that sound much better? And they're not even sending them back to their own country. They're sending them to like African countries and stuff where they don't even speak the language, countries they've never even heard of before. Yeah, that's a better option. At least in Cuba, they'd be able to speak the language, maybe get some help. It's crazy. Haiti. Let's talk about Haiti for a second, because Haiti is in this mess as well. So over 300,000 Haitians are about to lose their status. Let me tell you what it's called. Let me just see if I can find it really quickly. So they're about to lose their status. It was kind of like a protected status that they had. And the interesting thing about this is the knock-on effect is that most of these Haitians are actually, let me just check something here. Most of these Haitians are care workers in Florida. So they work in nursing homes, work in people's homes, taking care of their elderly, stuff that nobody else really wants. Most Americans don't want that job. So they're about to lose their TPS status because it ends tomorrow, right? And the community that is going to get hit the hardest because of this is Miami. So, you don't know this, or maybe you do because you've been paying attention, but the temporary protected status that a lot of these Haitians have, you see them working at the airport, you see them working a lot of the jobs that, let's be honest, minimum wage jobs that most Americans probably don't want to do anyway. And so over 300,000 of those Haitians nationwide is set to lose their temporary protected status because of the Trump's administration decision to end the program on February the 3rd, which is tomorrow. So once they do that, I guess they'll start deporting all of those people as well. I don't know exactly how that's going to work. And as you well know, the situation in Haiti is probably one of the worst that it has ever been. So, if there's no court order that's going to block the termination, a lot of these people are going to find themselves in a whole heap of trouble. So one guy named Richard made a comment where he said, I can't travel now and all of my savings are invested here in the US. Greater Miami area has the largest population of any metropolitan area in the country of Haitians that would be impacted by this TPS status. So Florida, the entire state of Florida, is home to nearly half of the Haitian TPS holders, and over 300 people losing that state. This is going to be quite something. Uh-huh. So this guy, Richard, he has a nursing, he's at Sinai Residences, where he's been going to nursing school. And he has a housekeeping job there. And he's one of 40 Haitian TPS holders that make up the 450 staff plus staff complement. So that's going to be about 9% of the company's employees, including nurses, nursing assistants, housekeepers, cooks, dietary aides, memory care workers, and waiters. And they are now all going to, I guess, I don't know how he's going to deport them so quickly, but I guess Trump has a plan for exactly how that is going to work. Now, the other interesting thing, and the Haitians have been posting stuff on social media asking for a more humanitarian approach to all of this. I wouldn't really hold my breath with this government for that to happen. But anyway, it's quite interesting. And of course, the other thing now is we see that the trickle-down impact that this will have, even on the Miami economy, is going to be something to watch. Like, it's going to be interesting. But remember, not that long ago, Trump actually called Haiti an S-hole. That's what he thinks of these countries, and he has made it very, very clear. He makes comments about countries like Haiti, Somalia, and then he praises South Africa. Only the South African white people, by the way, not the colored people. He wants to give them special status to be able to go to America, which a lot of them have not taken up his offer, because not even to them want to get involved in the hot mess that's now America. So these people for the TPS, temporary protected status, since 2010, have been able to legally work in the US, and they now will be finding themselves, around 350,000 people will find themselves at the risk of deportation and in this limbo where, they don't even know, I guess, what they're going to do. I mean, I don't even know how this is going to work exactly, but I guess time will tell, because as of tomorrow, we'll take it from there. Now, the Canadian government was supposed to sell one second. The Canadian government was supposed to sell the Americans a warehouse. Not the government, my apologies. A Canadian company was set to sell this warehouse, this Virginia warehouse, to ICE. And they have now canceled the sale of that warehouse because they realize that they're going to obviously be using that as additional space to detain more people. So I guess the company has taken a political position that it will not be supporting ICE in this venture. So here's the warehouse. I'll have you just show you a little picture here of it. Yep, massive warehouse. And it has now decided to scrap plans to sell a Virginia warehouse for use as an immigration and customs enforcement processing facility. The company said on Friday that it will no longer sell the warehouse, which is located in Virginia. It had planned on doing so, and the site is one of several planned warehouse purchases by ICE, which has faced resistance in recent weeks as federal government's immigration enforcement tactics has set off a backlash and protests. So it belongs to Jim Peterson Developments, which is based in Vancouver. And they said that it planned sale was made public in January, and then the company became aware. The company became one of a number of international companies facing questions after their work with ICE. And so now the Homeland Security Department wrote to officials to say that the agency planned to buy the 43.49 acre property in Ashland to support ICE operations. However, the company has revoked its offer and decided that it would no longer be selling the property to ICE. So ICE is spending quite a bit of money to obtain additional holding space because they're literally running out of space. So no comment from ICE so far, but they said, nope, they're not going to sell it to them again. So yeah, what a mess. So at least 32 people have died in ICE custody since Trump took office. That's just in the past year for his second term. And that's more people than in the entire term of former President Joe Biden. So the entire term for Joe Biden, 4 years, more people have died in 1 year with ICE under President Trump. So they're looking to buy industrial buildings designed for businesses in 23 towns and to convert them into detention facilities, spurring some resistance in places where the warehouse plans become public. So for example, in Oklahoma City, where they were planning a warehouse sale to Homeland Security, that collapsed after the owner backed out of the sale. So a lot of these owners are now backing out. There was another one in Orlando, Florida. As city leaders are weighing their options after learning that ICE wants to buy a logistics center there. The Orange County mayor said he opposed the plan. And there's one in Atlanta, same thing. People opposing. And of course, the irony of it, and this is something that shouldn't be missed here, that's worth noting, is they're purposely buying all of these in mostly Democrat areas, because those are the states that are being targeted specifically for, those are the ones that are being targeted for these centers and immigration. Like, I guess the Republican states don't have any criminals or illegal immigrants. I joke because the states that have the most are 2 Republican states. Just saying. Okay. All right. What a hot mess. Wowie. Anne says, do you know that there's a lot of Cubans in Miami, Florida? Oh, yes. And they're being deported. Record numbers now. They're actually being deported. They had one that was deported to Africa. He was in a hunger strike. And so, like I said, the irony of that is it's, largely the Cuban community supported Trump because they thought he wouldn't come for them. We needed to show them this, right? The Latinas for Trump have now changed their tone tremendously. When there was no one left, they came for you. So another person this morning says, let me see here. Oh, if you've lost a dog, somebody has a dog that they found, kind of brown looking. It helps when you message, you tell us where the dog was found. All right, the person says the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. I feel like we need to repeat that every single day, just to remind ourselves that if you sit back and you do nothing. Wanda says this is their version of concentration camps. Aliano says, did you see that the Italian government banned ICE officials from coming there? Oh, this was for is this for the Winter Olympics? By the way, isn't the Olympics starting in a couple days? Pretty crazy, right? I haven't heard much about the Winter Olympics this year. But yes. So people who've learned who have lost this temporary shield from deportation, it's impacting 4 countries. And I want you to pay attention to where those countries are, who they are. So we have Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans. They all had temporary shield from deportation, and they have lost it under the Trump administration. Those are the 4 priority countries. Not a single European country anywhere. So interesting. And don't forget, the Haitians were eating your pets. So maybe that's why they're being targeted, because they're eating your cats and dogs. Hot mess. All right, folks, that's the madness that is happening in the world around us at the moment. Headlines all over. Today is Groundhog Day. Poor groundhog, he ran back inside. He's predicting, what they do with the groundhog, right? They brought him out. And what's his name? Punksu 20 Phils. Where did this poor little groundhog get that name from? Apparently, he's predicting 6 more weeks of winter at least. They said that he saw his shadow and he ran for the hills. Poor thing. He's like, get me out of this cold. Put me back in the ground. What are y'all doing? Let me see. Oh, lots of wins at the Grammys last night. Did anybody watch the Grammys? I don't really tend to watch these shows, but some Caribbean people won. Who won reggae art album of the year? Some guy. So a big winner was what's his name? Bad Bunny. What's he called? Mad Bunny. I think he's Bad Bunny. So Bad Bunny won album of the year at the Grammys. And of course, he's actually performing at the upcoming Super Bowl, which I think is the Super Bowl next weekend. I feel like it's coming up pretty quickly. So yeah, Bad Bunny won. And it's been interesting because, of course, ICE has said that they're going to be going to the Bad Bunny Super Bowl to pick up people. He's not happy about that. Bit of good news. 5-year-old Liam Ramos and his father, who were detained last month in Minnesota, were released from ICE custody after a court order. So they didn't ignore that order. The Trump administration, which disputes that they had legally sought asylum, signaled that it may appeal. So, they can't even get, this is the part that's kind of concerning, is they can't even get the documentation or the paperwork right. Like, they have been arresting people who have been doing things the right way, and you still get arrested. So people are legit scared. Like, they're like, what on earth are we supposed to do? And apparently this little kid, he's only 5 years old, but he was not doing well. Like, his health was failing in ICE custody because, children can't take the same level of stress that adults can take. And so look at this little thing. Oh my gosh, look at that little face. Oh my goodness. So yes, they now have been released, and we wish them all the best. It's just crazy. 5-year-olds and toddlers being taken into custody. They're targeting schools. And so when they go into schools, children are actually being traumatized, even American children are being traumatized by seeing their schoolmates being dragged off by men with masks and guns. Very, very reminiscent of what would have happened in pre-World War II Germany and different parts of Europe. You know, when Anne Frank was having to hide in her basement. Kids now seeing this are having to live with the trauma of it. You know, they don't understand everything that's going on. And yet, you know, they're having to witness this. And childhood trauma is not something that you should underestimate. These are adults who will become very, very angry Americans, by the way. And they're going to be the same ones who are going to take up arms because, you know, everybody in America can own an Uzi quite easily. And then they're going to be the next round of kids killing each other in schools because they were traumatized as young children. What a mess. All right. Yeah, Super Bowl. Somebody tell me when the Super Bowl is. It's going to be who? The Seahawks and Patriots? Didn't the Patriots go last year? I think it's next weekend. I don't even know. But we'll keep an eye. We're not big American football people. But we'll watch it for the halftime show, for the Bad Bunny halftime show. And maybe there'll be even more drama because, like we said, Trump said he's going to send ICE there. All right. Okay, folks. I think that's all we got. Let me see. The Kennedy Center is going to be closed for a couple of years now, supposedly because it needs a makeover, which we know it's closing because nobody wants to perform there anymore. All of the artists have been canceling in droves. So I guess if they have no performers, the best thing to do is just to shut it down for 2 years. Can't make this stuff up. Let me see. Okay. All right. Oh, February is Black History Month. Good luck, America. Have some tea in that one. Y'all gonna need it this year more than ever. I'm just saying. Okie dokie. Just trying to see. Tomorrow we can talk a little bit about the HSA board. So the minister had a press conference on Friday. I think you guys saw that. We had a couple stories around that. And so, you know, I gotta show you guys this. This is so funny. But yeah, I mean, we're hopeful that they can finally sort themselves out. They are doing an audit as well. And so really, really looking forward to that. Oh, so Donald Trump says he's going to sue Grammys host Trevor Noah over brutal Epstein joke. Oh, God, he's going to sue everybody. Everybody gets sued. You get a lawsuit, you get a lawsuit, and you get a lawsuit. And you get one too. Somebody says, not for nothing, Sandy, but Bad Bunny is more American than the First Lady. Oh my goodness. I don't even know, what does Bad Bunny sing? I don't think that I know his music. Maybe I've heard something on the radio and didn't know that that was him. I'll have to go look him up later on to see what he's singing. AJ says Anne Frank had in a secret annex or attic, not a basement. Well, attic, basement, tomatoes, tomato. I mean, you know, some parts of the world it's an attic, some parts of the world it's a basement. I think you get the gist. The fact that she had to hide so that she wouldn't be executed and killed as a little girl, I think is the more important point, not the semantics of whether it was an attic or a basement. Marshall says, I wonder what all those Cubans who voted for Trump are saying now. Well, some of them are publicly coming out saying, yeah, they made a mistake. Sue says, terrible, yes. They're like damn Hitler's henchmen. It's 2026, so cruel. Sue says, seen better, the Grammy, some of the women's fashions were bad. And men, yeah, Bad Bunny and a few more good artists won. Why did they take Mikey back? Well, they never released him to begin with, unfortunately. The court ordered his release, and they were obviously, everybody was optimistic that was going to happen. And then I said, oh, no. We're thinking about appealing it, so we're not going to release him. It's a hot mess. Tom says Texas and Florida are cooperating with President Trump's policy to go after illegal immigrants. Well, you do know that's completely false, right? He's not targeting Texas or Texas or Florida as much, not at all. So there's that. It's not that they're cooperating. The focus just isn't there. I mean, yes, some of the Cubans, like I said, are going to be impacted. Let me fact check that statement for you so I can give you some statistical information. Okay, it's important that we start to fact check when you say that they're cooperating with him. Let's just see about that. Give me a second to fact check it, will you? Marley's family won. Oh yeah, that's good. Blessed good morning, Lady D. Oh, and Nicki Minaj not at the Grammys last night. I'm not surprised. And of course, Trevor Noah made a really funny joke about that. Let me see if I have that video. Hold on. It was low key funny. But yes, let me just see Trevor Noah. So basically, he said that she's still hanging out at the White House with Trump. And and the two of them, Trump and oh, here it is. You got to see. It's funny. That Trump and her are in discussions about who has the bigger behind. All right, let's see. This is one of the jokes, I guess. Like I said, I didn't watch it, but this was like how he opened it. He does a pretty good Trump what do you call it? Trump. What you call it? Trump impersonation. So Trevor Noah mocks Donald Trump's friendship with Jeffrey Epstein during the Grammys, saying that he says, "What are you going to do about it?" Hello, good morning. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sandy. Kay Dabrio here. I'm sorry I'm so late to the party. A little bit under the weather. Good morning.
Oh my goodness. How are you?
I'm good. I know you weren't expecting this call, but
Yes.
I think there's still some confusion with people as to why ICE is still holding on to Mikey.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah. So I did a little bit of research. So this is not legal advice or whatever.
Right.
I did with the lawyer, just my own stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So under U.S. law, ICE can appeal an immigration judge's decision, right? I think in this case, it's 10 days to do so.
Mm-hmm.
The appeal is challenging whether the immigration judge was correct in reopening Mikey's case and allowing him to be bonded. Now, in this 10-day period, it allows them to be able to find facts to back this up.
Mm-hmm.
They have to prove it to the Board of Immigration Appeals, and the Board of Immigration Appeals would have to agree with ICE. all right,
Mm-hmm.
in order to continue to undo what the judge has already undone, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, an automatic stay would apply if they're being held under the Immigration and Nationality Act, which is INA 236C, and that requires mandatory custody if non-citizens have like terrorism charges, criminal activity, gun charges, that kind of stuff. So they try to use that to hang on to a lot of them. I don't know if that's the case in Mikey's case, but that's one of the ones they've been using greatly because Mikey's case isn't the only one that this is happening with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can guarantee right now they're digging up every nook,
They're just
cranny,
trying to
crevice.
find something. It's not that they have
Something. It
anything.
could be a speeding ticket. It could be
Mm-hmm.
oh someone wrote a bad check. Anything. But the thing is, Mikey has nothing that I know about.
Mm-hmm.
It would
Mm-hmm.
surprise me.
Yeah. And you
So
see, this is where, Kay, that it's like weird because, you know, he's been telling people that, oh, these people are rapists and they're criminals and they're this and they're that. And the vast majority of people that have been collected and detained have actually just been, it's just because they haven't necessarily, they're not documented, right? That's the
yes,
only crime that they
yes,
have committed. It's not that they are rapists and murderers like they claim.
right.
So the fact now that they are out there trying to search for something, anything on Mikey, I think is really kind of sad. Like you don't have it already. So why did you, why are you treating this man like he's a first-rate criminal?
Because that's what ICE is all about. They don't care about the fairness of it, okay? Because basically, in Mikey's case, and this, let's take ICE out of the picture, right? If
Mm-hmm.
these orders weren't made, this is what happened. And in absentia order was for removal was made against Mikey because he didn't show up to an immigration hearing. He didn't show up because he was hospitalized, right?
Mm-hmm.
Under the Immigration and Nationalities Act, INA 240B5CI, a removal order
Mm-hmm.
must be rescinded if the person didn't appear due to exceptional circumstances
Mm-hmm.
such as serious illness or hospitalization.
Right.
So under the law, Mikey is entitled to file a motion to reopen the case. So had ICE not been around under normal circumstances, he would have gone to his green card interview. They'd be like, look, you have a removal order. Before we can grant this, you need to get this sorted out with the judge. So set a date, go to a judge. He would
Right.
have remained legally in the country, gone through and they would be like, all right, here's your green card, sent him on his way. So what has essentially happened is when he appeared in front of the judge looked at it and said the same conclusion, like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
we never even served him because he gave us his new address and everything. You guys dropped the ball, plus he's entitled to have it reheard, but you guys are still trying to remove him. You have no legal grounds at all to hold him. So
Mm-hmm.
he ordered, okay, grant him bond. Here's the amount. Send him on his way. And ICE is like, you know what? Yeah, we're gonna be Karens. There has to be something we can find him, to keep him here.
Yeah.
But there's nothing, right? And like I said before, they're doing this everywhere in the U.S. Like there's a case in they call it the Omaha raid case of 2025, where Omaha man was granted $10,000 bond by immigration judge July 9th.
Mm-hmm.
And although it was paid, they refused to approve his release.
Mm.
They said they were going to appeal and kept him in detention center in North Plate, I don't know. Then there's
Mm.
another case of Mr. C, which is Otay Mesa Detention Center, a
Mm-hmm.
49-year-old Mexican man. He's a 26-year resident with a U.S. citizen son. He was granted bond. ICE held him for weeks after the
Mm.
payment. And that forced his lawyer to file a habeas corpus petition, which means you're being held without reason and
Mm-hmm.
unlawfully. So that all they're doing is stalling. If they come up with something on Mikey, I would be shocked because there's nothing. He's done nothing wrong. He's just been continuing. They're just trying to hit those quotas. Trump is ultimately trying to say I deported the most people in history. And
Mm-hmm.
it comes back to what you had said earlier, kind of tail end of what you say about it being the rich versus the poor,
Mm-hmm.
And that's why. So even though on paper it says he was there illegally, under the law his rights were also violated because he was allowed to stay until he appealed this case. He never
Mm-hmm.
found out about the case anyway till he went. So them dropping the ball, that's nobody's problem but the government. But
Mm-hmm.
because ICE's enforcement, they're like, oh no, we're going to use this technicality to get rid of you. And people should know that when you come in and different cases and so on, and you're applying before you can get in that line to apply. I guess you're illegal, but you're still covered because you know you're
Yeah.
waiting on your turn to be heard. If
Mhm.
not, then what's the whole immigration process in America then?
Right.
So I hope
And
that
this is the thing, right? Like I said, like I, as someone who lived in the US for 15 years and kind of went through some of it, I went through it as a child. So it was more like on my aunt to make sure that she crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's. You know, the process is really complicated. It's not as easy as people think. So
Right.
there are instances where, especially if you can't afford a fancy immigration lawyer, if you try to do some of this stuff yourself, you might make a mistake. But
Yes.
normally the court allows you in good faith to correct those things and to be able to still proceed. So take, for example, in my situation, right? I didn't know, having grown up there for all those years, over 10 years at that point, when I was going off to university, that's when I learned that I was there on a student visa, because I didn't even know, as a kid, you don't know what your immigration status is, right?
Right.
I was there as a student on a student visa, and then I discovered you can't just go from a student visa to residency or anything, you know. So my aunt never changed my status. I guess she just didn't know or think about it. So when I was getting ready to go to university, all of a sudden they were like, "Oh, you're considered an international student, so you have to pay 4 times the tuition." I was like, "What?"
Oh my
So I know, because even in-state tuition would have been really, really expensive for me. And I was like, oh my God, I was flabbergasted. Now, thankfully, because I had received a scholarship from a law firm, I'd applied for a scholarship and I had won. There were some lawyers in that, some immigration lawyers who were like, you know, they did some pro bono work for me and they helped me to regularize my status for the purposes of the tuition, at least, right?
Yeah.
But it's not, you know, it's not as easy as people think. And it is quite easy to miss an appointment, to get something wrong. But the courts will be like, okay, if you have, like you say, legitimate reason why this has happened, they will allow you to fix it. What you have happening now is, you know, these people are bringing weapons to like a courthouse, and I mean figuratively and literally, like they're bringing out the big guns over a situation that ordinarily would just be fixed by the courts. And I think that that's problematic. That's really, really concerning. And
they're not allowing people to go through with their hearings. I mean, you have people being sworn in as citizens, and they're like, yes, canceling this. So now what? You know, you're stuck with card, and then they start to harass the green card people. Well, you've been here 20 years. Why didn't you go be a citizen? You know, and it's trickling down because for the Caymanians and other that got naturalized, don't think you're in. Remember, he's coming for us, right? I say that because we all know I'm Jamaican, Caymanian / American, right? I went through the process. They're gonna go through all the applications with a fine-tooth comb, and just like you said, if there was a spelling error, and just say your middle initial was supposed to be B as in Barney, and you put D as in Delta by accident, they will use that to pull you out, be like, okay, let's question you. Let's look at what you've been up to. You know, don't get no speeding ticket. Don't get none of that. They're going to find any and every excuse to say, you know what, yeah, this is invalid, and they will revoke it. You're not as safe as you think you are. No matter charity, you could have been there 30 years. He has said it
well,
on his own.
they're arresting even American citizens.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, people, when I say American citizens, I mean people who were born in America.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, then they're releasing them. I don't remember what the terminology they call it. I just saw it the other day where they're randomly letting people out miles away from, like, they'll arrest these American people, have them in custody for hours, sometimes days, sometimes weeks. They'll let them out in the middle of the night in cold weather without calling in, no cell, nothing. You're taking them on these walks, and a number of them have shown up, even ones that are green card holders, and they're just so afraid at this point to get, you know, anything happen. They're coming home bruised, battered, everything. And USCIS is like, ICE is like, oh, well, we don't know. You know, we let them, not our problem. They don't care. You know, they're taking people's possessions, their phones, anything on them. I mean, this is definitely some Nazi type stuff. You know,
it is pretty wild.
Yeah, so that's why I had to jump on here to clarify.
So we have a question. Maybe you can answer this. Anthony has a question. He says, why put up a fight? Just come out of the people country. that's the same problem we have here in Cayman, where they try to get people off the island that's here illegal.
Okay, I have a few answers to that. Number one, if people didn't stand up against slavery,
Mhm.
we should have just complied and done what they say to avoid, we need
Yeah.
to be enslaved, right?
Mhm.
At what point do you take up the realm to fight for something that you believe? Do you just give up because, oh, well, the country don't want me there? Is it the country, or is it a certain demographic of the country
Mhm.
that's doing illegal things to get you out of there?
Right.
If you walk into a room and 15 people out of 50 don't like you, you're gonna be like, well, I gotta go back to Cayman because 15 people don't like me.
And not
Even
for nothing, but I mean, Mikey has been in the States for a number of years and actually has built his life there. He has a
absolutely.
family, he has a home there. So, I mean, Anthony, Cayman really isn't Mikey's home. Mikey, I remember when Mikey left, he's been gone for a hot minute now. So, Cayman isn't, I mean, yes, it's his place of birth and it's where he grew up, but he has chosen to make somewhere else his home, which I would think that anybody has the right to do that, legally. And so why should he just leave? Just because, as you rightfully said, a few people say, we don't want you here. That
Right.
to me, that kind of doesn't make any sense.
And these are the undesirable people too. These aren't even normal people like you and me. So, he's entitled to, yeah. So that, I'm sorry, but no.
Yeah, I mean, if
I
he's
that
if he's following the law, even if he missed an appointment or got something wrong, and there's a way to appeal that or a way to regularize that, why not allow him to do so? Like
right,
it's just crazy how they're going about it. Like it's just
right. And
it's
if
wild.
anyone thinks that, oh, he should just come home and the States is bad, then they need to also question themselves why they go shopping in Miami, because they don't want you there either. You the same color. So if you
Mhm.
go because you're having a good experience or you saving money, then you have no argument because you still going to a place where supposedly nobody wants you there.
Yeah.
You know. So that's
It's
yeah.
pretty wild. So they have the 28 days. So basically Mikey's gonna just sit there for another 28 days and wait and see what they decide to do.
That's all that they're allowed to hold him for.
Uh-huh.
If they continue that habeas corpus, you're holding
Mhm.
him with no grounds, and more than likely, then there's steps. There's the ombudsman. There's federal. There's different steps that you can take to escalate it up the ladder. We're just having to bear with their legal rights for now. ICE's legal rights, which they're entitled to. And then, yeah, we'll have to file a habeas corpus because if not, why are you holding him? The judge said to let him go. He's not a risk, none of that stuff.
Matthew's in the comments section saying thanks, Auntie KK. Um, yeah, we really appreciate you, sharing some insight, because I think that for people who are not going through this, it's easy for them to kind of ask these questions like, why don't you do this? And why don't you do that? Because we're not experiencing it. We don't know firsthand the stress and all of the intricate details of exactly what's happening. So it's very, very easy for you to say, someone who's been overseas for 10, 15 years, oh, just pick up your life and come back home. Like it's going to be that easy for you to do. Right. And let me be clear. Some people last week made the observation that Mikey had actually filed for asylum, and they were like, well, what grounds was he filing for asylum? We all know that Mikey is part of the LGBTQ plus community, and Cayman has unfortunately, has a reputation for not being friendly to that community.
Yeah.
And so,
He experienced it.
yeah, I mean, you're telling him, Anthony's just come back home so that he can face prejudices and discrimination in his own country to a larger extent. I'm not saying that he's not necessarily facing some of that in the US as well, but let's just be really, really honest about the Cayman context. Yeah, that's a reality too.
Yeah.
So
I need to point out one last thing that I didn't say earlier as well.
mhm.
The risk when people say Mike, he could have just come home. First of all, he can't just jump on a plane and come home and be like, all right, I want out of here, and they're just going to put him on a
Right.
case. They will continue to keep him in custody and then go through the whole deportation, which could take months again.
Mhm.
On top of that, these people don't
Mhm.
care where people to. He was at risk of going to El Salvador.
Oh my God. What the fuck?
Yes.
El Salvador?
Right, because they've been sending people from Mexico, whatever. We know ICE lies. So I when I say he's at risk, they didn't tell us that. So I don't want that to be
Yeah.
assumed.
Yeah.
But the fact that what we were observing on the news and stuff, people from Mexico getting sent to El
Oh
Salvador,
my
here,
God.
everywhere, there was no 100% guarantee that they could verbally give to us
Yeah.
that would be brought back safely to the Cayman Islands. We
Mm-hmm.
were by, like, if we got called in the Cayman Islands government, if they deport him, to help bring him home, because we were that fearful that he would
Mm-hmm.
get people right now lost in the
Right.
system, that they were ordered either deported or released, and no one can find
Can
them.
even find them. And this is what I was saying too. Like they're literally sending people to Africa, all over the place.
Absolutely. You imagine Mikey being in Africa or one of those places. He would know what to do. That's a
Mm-hmm.
death sentence. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
we, as a family, decided that, listen, for his safety, believe it or not, even though this seems like the harder fight, first of all, the fight he's fighting is his own legal rights, right? But second, for his own personal life, we have to
Mm-hmm.
make sure he can get through this and at least be in the States and then get legal, and then he can come home for a visit. Everyone will know he's fine. So it's not as open and shut as we think it is. Oh, well, the law says this, so it must be
Mm-hmm.
this. But the law said that they were allowed to have slaves back in the day. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
till we can use example after example.
Mm-hmm.
So you choose to obey the law even if the law is illegal, quote unquote.
Right.
So that's just my point.
Yeah. I mean, people can choose to remain silent on these things, like I said, thinking that it's not going to impact them until the day that somebody's at their doorstep, or
Yeah,
dragging their kids out of school, or,
yeah,
then it becomes really, really real.
yeah,
So I think that we have an obligation to speak on these things, just as being part of the human race, quite frankly.
yeah.
I've always been an advocate of the LGBTQ plus community, to the point where people were questioning my sexuality. And I'm like, you missed the point. It has
Yeah,
nothing to do with me. But these
yeah,
people are our friends, they are our family members, and they've not done anything wrong. And they have a right to live their lives and to try to be as happy. They're entitled to the same happiness that everybody else is chasing in
yeah,
this world for the little bit of time that we have here. So, that's the difficulty of it, quite frankly.
yeah.
So we'll continue to keep you guys in our thoughts and our prayers. And of course, it's just a really, really sad situation.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. And
Yeah,
you
and
know,
we'll continue to highlight it, because I think that this is the important role that media does play, despite the fact now that media is being targeted. Nobody's safe. We see this morning Donald Trump claims now that he's gonna sue Trevor Noah over a joke and all this kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
media in the U.S. are being arrested. They're having there was the Washington Post journalist who had her house, they went in with a search warrant in her house, something that's never been done. And the one interesting thing about media that is really, really alarming, no matter whether you like, a particular person or not, is the only profession that is listed in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights, when it comes to freedom of speech. The only profession that's listed in the American Constitution is journalists. That is how protected the forefathers in the America who drafted the the Constitution. They knew from their own experiences with the UK and fighting that battle. They knew that journalists had a very, very important role to play in any democracy, and so they
Yeah.
specifically named them in that First Amendment clause, covering freedom of speech, not just for everyone, but specifically journalists are named. And I think that speaks volumes to the role that anyone who's in this media space, has to understand. And so the fight is real. I mean, the fight is real in Cayman. We see even here, our DPP and police are always trying to criminalize what I do, speaking out, and although I have a case now where the Court of Appeals said, no, you can't just so easily criminalize freedom of speech. they've still done it again, even after that decision. And so it is a constant fight to just fight for the right to be able to even express an opinion. And it's sad to see America go down this way, because for many of us, America was always like the holy grail of protecting people's civil rights and liberties. And, but we see all of that work that it took hundreds of years to get to. All of that work is being eroded and being undone by the Trump administration, by MAGA, and whatever that document is that they claim that they have that is, purposely eroding women's rights of minorities. It's just wild. Like, I never thought that I'd see this day in America.
Yeah, there is something, I think it's in Ellis Island. There's a painting that MAGA needs to take a look at to realize that they were discriminated against, right?
Mm-hmm.
The painting is called The Fool Pied Piper, and it was created by the artist Samuel Earhart, right?
Mm-hmm.
That painting was created in 1909 because anti-immigration sentiment was very high in the U.S. And the targeted groups are Chinese, Japanese, Italians, Eastern Europeans. They didn't want them in America in 1909. Research that. Tell MAGA to go read their history and realize their ancestors were called rats, thieves, criminals, all this other stuff. And it's depicted in that painting. Like I said, the name of the painting is called The Fool Pied Piper, created by artist Samuel Earhart.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing. Like, they think that they own America, but as people have said, where they're coming from, every single one of them practically are, European for the most part. Migrants, right? So they came from Ireland. They were like the poorest of the poor. The same people they claim that they don't want in their country now. They came here with nothing. They also died on voyages trying to get to the US to look for a better way of life. The potato famine, so it's like they don't even know their own history. That's why they can't appreciate what they're doing is so wrong, because they themselves don't even know their own history and know where their forefathers came from. Their forefathers came and found the Indians there. And now they're trying to, somebody just said, by the way, they're trying to deport and they're arresting Native Americans.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what the hell? These were the people that y'all came here and found here, that were here literally thousands of years before you. And now you're questioning whether or not they have a right, whether or not they're Americans. It is crazy. It is truly, truly crazy, but continue to keep fighting. I mean, obviously we are here paying attention to this. We hope that Mikey can get out sooner rather than later, because we know that this has to be a very mentally, emotionally, and even physically challenging time for anyone having to go through this. And, the sad thing is, you can't even, you hate to think about it, but his life and safety is at risk with what we've seen happening with people in ICE custody.
Every day. But on behalf of the family, the Marreros and the Dabrios, we just want to say thank you to everyone, including yourself, for the support that we've received so far. We've had a few naysayers and this is against the Bible, and I'm like, you know what? First of all, step aside, because if his safety and what's happening to him is less important to you than you lecturing about what's right or wrong, you need to remember, love the sinner but hate the sin. Don't forget that part.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, my dear. Thank you so much.
day.
I really appreciate it.
All
right, Kay. Bye-bye. Yeah. It's pretty wild. All right, folks. I've got a 10:30 meeting. Oh, shoot. Look at the time. I got to go. You guys have a wonderful day. Project 2020, is it 2025, 2026? Project whatever. Yeah, thank you, George. So, hey, Mr. George, so good to see you. Folks, have a beautiful day. We will see you here tomorrow morning. Make sure you tune in early at 7:30. And more topical discussions for you. Until tomorrow, take care.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels. And visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.